Hello, Wendy.
Hello, Jane.
Welcome to Love Letters, Life, and Other Conversations. Oh, I'm loving what we're going to talk about today.
Oh my goodness, I am too. And just to give a little bit of context for our listeners, this quote is, "It's my turn to choose." And I chose a quote that is actually a part of your program, I Want More the Next 30 Years, that I am loving being a part of. We'll have to link it in the show notes.
Isn't it a great group of women?
Word. It's so good.
Oh.
And I'm sure you think and feel that with every group, because it's just this beautiful opportunity and permission slip to think about what we want for more than 10 seconds at a time.
Yes. And you're right. I do think and feel that about every group, but this group in particular has opened doors that no other group has opened.
Hooray.
Yeah. So I'm going to hand it over to you to talk about it.
Well, I love that, no pressure on how fabulous this conversation will be, but I'm really excited because you know why you chose this quote to be a part of this lesson. So your insight and contribution into this conversation, I feel, is going to have a lot to do with what motivated you to add this, where my contribution to this conversation is coming from just the delight and discovery of reading it in the context of this class. So it's kind of, although the author isn't here with us of this quote, I love just the different characters and the different perspectives that are brought to the same, the same space. So the quote, and this is by philosopher DJ Kyos. How do we pronounce his name?
I say Kyos, but it could be wrong.
He's welcome to help us with our pronunciation.
Yes.
So it reads, "It takes only one event in life, then your whole life changes completely. That even it doesn't find you. You find it by going out there and doing something, not by just sitting and doing nothing."
So, for a little bit of context,
please,
as to why I had chosen that quote, the first task that I asked your group to do last week, it was last week, wasn't it? Week 3 of I Want More the Next 30 Years. I said that I had chosen it because I wanted you to plan your steps. We went on and we talked about the fact that the week before we had talked a little bit about imagining your new reality and imagining that it cannot fail. Do you remember having the conversation about my friend's husband who's in marketing in Australia, and how he and I sat up one night late, very, very late one night, a couple of years ago. He said to me, always imagine the end, and once you can touch it and feel it and smell it and see it, and only then plan your steps on how you're going to get there. Imagining the reality, imagining that you cannot fail, and then taking one small component of how you're going to get to this new life that you want to create. And the idea, I think the task was to tell us how that looks, how it feels, how it smells, how it tastes, what's the context, frame it for us. I asked you all to be as succinct as you could in formulating and telling us one of the parts that was going to formulate the pathway to this new reality.
Right. I'm scribbling notes like a crazy person, even though I just was in this class. Oh, I have so much to say.
You know, from that little quote, though, I think we had an amazing class on Saturday night, didn't we? It was Saturday lunchtime for you, but every single person in the class really broke it down and looked at the path from their reality to their future, and what it was that they're chasing, what it was that they're after, what it is that they want more of. And everyone was really articulate and succinct about what manageable steps they were making in order to make their way to this new reality. And it was quite incredible, wasn't it? What came out.
You know, in doing something like this, I mean, it's beautiful to hear these concepts as well on this podcast and think, oh, I'm going to do this practice. And then there's something about doing it in a group setting where just the rise in frequency as people were sharing, and then there were synchronicities of what other people wanted to share, and just that beautiful quote of rising tides raise all ships. It was just really beautiful. And there's so much, I have so much to say. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, just as you said that, there was something that was said on Saturday night, which I loved. Perfect is the enemy of good. Do it messy, which was something you said. Where did you get that from? Do it messy.
Do it messy was the absolute mantra of Kathy Heller's Made to Do This program, which is the program that I took in January of 2020 that really was the launch pad for my most recent up level and journey of just being the best version of myself. And she interviewed on her podcast the woman, I cannot recall her name, but she plays Lisa on The Simpsons, which is a animated, right?
Yeah.
She was interviewing her, and forgive me, I can't remember her name. She said that quote. She was just talking about in her acting career and when she would go to auditions, and you just have to do it. And that phrase, perfect is the enemy of good, was essentially, like, forgive me, my mom, if you're listening, the kick in the ass that I needed to just do the thing. Like, I've been talking about living in New England my whole Southern California life. I've been wanting to have a barn. I want to have events. I want to do all of these things. And I was waiting until, oh, well, the barn is really old. So if I could restore it, or if, there's a lot of weeds here, so let me cultivate this grass so that it looks and it's like, oh my gosh, just do the thing. Please just do the thing. Let's just do it messy. So these concepts of which we talked about on Saturday night as well, in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits,
which I have had on Audible in the car all day today.
Oh, it's so good. And he talks about this concept of the difference between motion and action. And motion is talking about the thing, and you're talking about your health goals, and you buy new clothes to go to the gym, and you do all of this stuff. But action is actually going to the gym. Like, you actually encourage. Courage is on the other side of doing the thing that scares you. It's on the other side of consistency. It's on the other side of taking these leaps, taking these steps to move toward what you want. But like you said, you have to identify what that looks and feels and tastes and smells like. so
Exactly.
that feeling sustains you when you are hovering over the send button that is actually going to invite somebody into this beautiful thing that you want to do. And
Yeah.
it can be really scary, but once you do it, then that brings in Gay Hendricks wrote a book called The Big Leap, and it's talking about when you are moving from your zone of excellence, there's a zone of competence, there's this thing that you just know how to do, but it's really, you're made for more. And then there's your zone of excellence where you're really good at it and people rely on you, but there's more. And that's your zone of genius. And that is the big leap, is from your zone of excellence to your zone of genius. And when you are moving into that space, there's this ceiling. He calls it an upper limit problem. So you're hitting against your upper limit. There's all this resistance. Everything in your subconscious is saying, don't do that scary thing. People aren't going to like you. People are going to think you're crazy. People are going to think whatever you're telling yourself that people are going to think about you. And once you can take that leap, take those 20 seconds of courage, break through that upper limit, your ceiling becomes your new floor. And you have up-leveled to this new beautiful place. There will be more upper limits there too, but that's the overarching question of that book, is how good are you willing to let your life be?
Yeah. Yeah. And that gets back to, if you look at this quote, it takes only one event in life, then your whole life changes completely.
Do you have one of those? Do you have an event in life that changed everything?
I do have an event in life that I feel changed everything completely. I sent out week 4 on Monday. Have you looked at week 4 yet?
Yes.
You know that week 4, we actually go a step further than we did in week 3 about, finding our path from the here to the there in small manageable steps. In week 4, I actually ask you to start really thinking about what it is that you want and starting to write your I want more the next 30-year manifesto, right? Yeah. So I have an event, and you have my I want more the next 30 years manifesto.
Yes.
Minus a couple of really personal things that I took off that I didn't think were appropriate to be there. But, you can see mine isn't about anything materialistic.
Right.
Not even about anything business-wise. Mine is all living connection. Mine is all real experiences. Mine's pretty simple.
Right.
Some people have been really shocked when they've read mine, because a lot of people that are doing the I want more the next 30 years are doing it for, a big, grand thing.
Right. That's interesting. So I've heard that, sometimes when we feel like, okay, I'm writing this thing, I have to write every single thing that I could possibly want. That when you are, if you are coming at it from a place of abundance, that it's not the only time you get to write down what you want. It's not the only time you get to add.
No.
It's not like Santa, like you only get one shot a whole year.
No.
You can keep coming back to this. And so
Exactly.
I think your practice has been honed through series of events and through your personal growth and through your life experiences. And you are coming to a place of knowing that it is all here for you.
Yeah. And Wendy, I'm doing this course over and over and over again, which is a great privilege to me, really, because I'm also honing all the skills and all the wants and all the needs and all the framing and all the reframing and all the leaps and all the bounds and all the wading through murky waters. I get to do that every 6 weeks.
Right?
I
It's
get
so
to do a
good.
new mind map every 6 weeks. You know, the one that I did with your group 2 weeks ago. There's so much new stuff on that
Right.
that I have never scribbled, doodled, articulated before.
It's so good. And that's the beauty of repetition. So even, you know, someone might think like, oh, I don't even know what I want. Or I could say what I want, but oh gosh, I don't want to sound whatever, greedy, whatever, or crazy or whatever. It's just because it's new, but in your repetition of it, you're finding a groove that is, I mean, it's like when I first met my husband, like before our first kiss, like I was all up in my head and oh my gosh, and like, oh, this is going to be amazing. Like it's all I could think about it. And now 21 years in, we kiss so much it ain't no thing. Like it's just, there's that repetition that comes, like it feels like the biggest thing that's going to happen. And then you keep doing it and you're like, oh, I'm really good at this. This is not scary or, I mean, it's the repetition of anything. And when we get used to identifying what we want and articulating it and feeling into it, it ain't no thing.
I disagree. I think it's everything.
You are entitled to disagree with me.
I think it's everything. I think once you cross a line and you're looking for what is it, what is your more that you want, you really start to drill down. And mine went down to everyday basic emotions. There is halfway through, I have one materialistic want, and I put in brackets, and I won't apologize for that. But it's interesting, and it's interesting. It was particularly interesting, I thought, on Saturday night, the way that people articulated that first task of planning those first steps on their path to what it was that they wanted. And they really understood the task too, which was I asked you to inject a new micro habit into your week, into your day, into your hour, whatever it was that you wanted to do. And I think every single person in that group injected a micro habit into their day that was also going to help them to stay on track to reach this new reality that they were on the path to.
Absolutely.
And I loved that because I think that task 1 and 2 really did integrate together. But in the past, people haven't really understood that what I was really after was for you to take a new habit and attach it to an old habit.
Right.
And make it something that you love doing, that is going to help for you to reach whatever your goal is.
Right. And I just want to clarify, because I think we do agree. I think maybe I just didn't articulate it in a way. When I say it's not a big deal now to say it, I mean, like, I'm so out of my ego. I'm so just in my true self, and all of the limiting beliefs that say I don't deserve these great things, or they cost too much money, or they require other people, whatever. There's not material things in there. There's a couple, it's just that I'm not overthinking it anymore.
No.
I'm moving from the motion to the action of really identifying, this is something I want. This is something good. This is something that in every way, everybody wins when this manifesto comes to fruition. And even, the one event, it takes only one event in life, then your whole life changes completely. I mean, I would say I've had a couple of those, I would say, milestone, pivotal moments.
Oh, absolutely.
But one event that I can clearly hearken to in the most recent past is reaching out to you, making this connection. And, now we're friends and we have a podcast, and I'm leading a fabulous trip that's going to bring other women to you. And it's happening so soon. I mean, and I'm just so excited. And you saying yes to yourself to be who and where you are now, and me saying yes to myself and connecting is modeling for other people how they can say yes to themselves. And it's just so gorgeous.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I had a once in a lifetime event happen in my life when I was about 22. I had been out of teachers' college for a couple of years, and I taught at one of a liberal Jewish day school in Melbourne, and I was the director of music. That music was my major at university. I had to teach all the songs, of course, and all the high holy holidays in Hebrew.
Oh.
Of course, I had no Hebrew.
Which is so convenient for your non-Jewish background.
Exactly. But it was a huge challenge. And every night I used to spend hours and hours and hours with my tape recorder, just playing back, small sections of the music and getting the music wasn't a problem. I could play the music on the piano, and I played the double bass and the flute, and I could do all of that. That wasn't a problem. That language was universal. There was no issue whatsoever. But the Hebrew language with all its rolling of and its
right.
I really, really had to work on that. And I did. And I did that for about 3 years. And then I went for a job interview at one of the girls' schools in Melbourne. And I was being interviewed with the headmistress, who I found incredibly intimidating. And I ended up getting the job. And a few years later, she retired, she was really pushed out of the job. It was a big Presbyterian girls' school in Melbourne, and there was some stuff going on within the Presbyterian church, top jobs in the education sector. I remember June Stratford was her name, and June
We're not going to call her Eve?
No, I'm not calling her
Okay.
Eve. June Stratford invited each one of her teachers into her office for afternoon tea and a sit down before she left. I went in and I sat down, and she had the most beautiful smiling face. She died a few years ago now. And I'll never forget, I mean, she was, to me, one of the greatest educators, certainly of young women in Australia at the time. And the school was renowned as, probably the most progressive girls' school under her direction. And she said to me, and remember, I'd had my mother say this to me all my life: darling, you can do anything you want. Look in the mirror, tell yourself, I can do absolutely anything I want, okay? But that came from my mother.
Right? So different.
June Stratford, in that sit down, when she was leaving, she said to me, and she took my hands, and she said to me, I don't want you ever to forget that whatever you decide to put your hand to, and I don't care whether it's in your career, in your personal life, whatever you want, Jane McAlpine, she said, because I was still Miss McAlpine then. She said, you truly can do it, Jane. I've never forgotten that. That meant so much to me because she was really a hard taskmaster. She was really, really tough, and she expected a lot from us. And I was scared of her. I was scared of, not being good enough, not teaching well enough, not presenting well enough. In that half-hour afternoon tea with her, she transformed me.
That's beautiful.
Really, she really transformed me.
Do you think she had the same exact conversation with every person she
No,
talked
she
to?
didn't, because the whole staff room was talking about their sit downs with her.
What
And
a
some were
phenomenal
funny, and I never said a word about my sit down. I just said, oh, she was lovely. She couldn't have been lovelier. And we had a little bit of chat about life and that sort of thing. But I never told everyone what she actually said. Well, I'm 30 years older now. I'm happy to share.
Sure.
And June's gone. It's always struck me that, I've told my children about that conversation and how incredible it can be when someone changes your whole perspective,
Right.
turns it on its head, and, you realize that, you are doing a great job, or that someone sees something in you that,
or they see you.
yeah. Anyway,
Oh, that's
that
so
was the one
beautiful.
from long ago. I've had a more recent one, which I'm not going to share. I might share that when I'm 80.
Oh, good for you. You got to pace yourself.
You've got to pace yourself.
Right.
But yes, that was a pivotal moment in my life, I've got to say. What about you, Wendy? Have you got one that you would like to share?
Well, I think just the taking action on the things that are important to me, which meant getting myself to France, meeting these beautiful people that I've been admiring on Instagram, because they're real people. I'm a real person that some people admire on Instagram. So, and
Exactly.
so you're just like me with the
That's
bigger.
right.
And I said yes to myself, and I didn't put.
You didn't put walls up. You didn't put that. You didn't put
decide.
boundaries and walls around yourself that were impenetrable.
I didn't decide for you if meeting me was worth your time. I gave you the opportunity to decide that for yourself.
Yeah.
And oftentimes.
And look where we are.
Look where we are. And it's just the beginning.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good. I adore you.
Yeah.
And I would have robbed
right
myself.
back at you, my friend.
Well, thank you, honey. I would have robbed myself of this goodness if I talked myself out of saying yes. And there are 1,000 reasons why. So take this trip for example, these trips that I'm leading all year. I've got all sorts of destinations. The first ones is to you. It's so lovely. And to Paris and Versailles, so many good things. But we could say, oh, well, I can't leave home. Home will fall apart if I'm not there. Well, I just did this. I was there in October. I met you in person. We had the time of our life. And, did everything run exactly the way it does when I'm at home? No, it did not. Of course it didn't. It shouldn't be the same when I'm gone as it is when I'm here. But
no, otherwise, what's the point of you?
I'll never come home. Just moving into Chateau Bosquet. So, there are these reasons, but they're almost, they're protection. It's that hitting that upper limit, like, ooh, how willing am I? How much goodness am I willing to allow in? How willing am I to have a great life? And so there are some hard parameters, and then there are some artificial parameters, like we're reading the book, The Art of Possibility. They're invented So we can reframe that. So I think, I've had several pivotal experiences. It was definitely life-changing to move from California to Massachusetts.
Yes.
It's what I wanted to do my whole life. And it wasn't exactly how I dreamed it to be, because my dream did not include humidity or mosquitoes. So I was unaware of that. So, there are definitely some things that we have the opportunity to spin for our good, and just keep going. But I wouldn't trade it. And I do not want to come to the end of my life and find it unlived.
Yeah. In my very first book, chapter 1, the first line is pourquoi? Why? People ask me all the time, why? And in the second paragraph, why? Yeah. Why? And in the second paragraph, I reveal that one of the biggest reasons why was when my husband turned to me and said, what do you want to do? Because we were talking about France yet again. I just turned around to him and I said, I don't want to wake up when I'm 73 and look at you and say, why the heck didn't we do that?
Right.
Why? What were we so scared of? And live with that regret, because I knew because of the intensity of the feelings that went with this whole adventure of buying a chateau and moving to France, and how much time and energy we put into talking about it. I knew it wasn't going away, and it was driving our friends and our families batty. And so, apart from anything, it's that don't live your life with regret.
It's that first kiss. You think it's so scary.
It's that first kiss.
Right. But once you do it, it just becomes your normal. Your beautiful, sweet, fabulous normal.
Yeah.
Oh.
Takeaways from today, Miss Wendy.
Say yes to yourself.
Say yes to yourself. I love that. I love that. I love perfect is the enemy of good. I don't think I'll ever forget that. I plan to do everything perfectly, imperfectly. I plan to live a perfectly imperfect life.
Which can be defined as intentional.
Yeah. Walk through the muddy waters. Right. And wherever they take you, let them take you.
It's worth it. It's
worth
it. Oh, I loved this conversation, my friend.
Oh, me too, Wendy. Me too. I have adored it. And thank you so much for suggesting that we use that quote from week 3 of I Want More the Next 30 Years.
Oh, it's so good. Thank you so much, my friend. I look forward to our next opportunity to connect.
Me too. Toodaloo.
Bye-bye.
We have loved this conversation and sharing this love letter with you, and we would like to invite you to send us your love letters. Visit the link in the show notes to send us your letters and to join our email list. See you next week.